So just to understand the agenda, would you like me to say a few words, or would you like to go directly to our speaker, given the calendar constraints he has?
Chris, we have a very short MC introduction, and then we'll directly to the speaker, and then we'll come to you.
Very good.
Nisha, you can start.
Nelson Mandela has rightly said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And today, we are witnessing this conclave to embrace that change. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Amisha Gupta, and I have the pleasure to be your master of ceremony today. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you at the Turnitin Virtual Conclave. A special thanks goes out to our wonderful speakers who have spared time from their busy schedule to share their thoughts and learnings. The topic for today is leveraging technology for enhancing education. Well, at Turnitin, we have been working with educators from over 140 countries from the last 20 years. And this Turnitin Virtual Conclave is an attempt to facilitate dialogues among the academic community to understand and determine the new education models that are taking shape. I would now like to invite our guest of honor for his keynote speech. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, the chairman of All India Council of Technical Education. Professor Sahasrabudhe has held several important academic research and administrative positions at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, Tata Consulting Engineers, Northeastern Regional Institute of Science and Technology, Itanagar, IIT Guwahati, and College of Engineering, Pune, prior to joining as AICTE chairman. Sir, I would now request you to join the virtual stage. The stage is all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Amisha Gupta. Good morning to all of you who have joined here on this particular platform. In particular, Mr. Tanmishto Ghosh and Ms. Chaitali Moitra, who have been interacting with me about this particular webinar which we are holding today. And the likes of various vice chancellors from different parts of the world, Professor Chandrika, Professor Alamgir, Professor Ashoka Das, Professor Sandeep Shastri, and the person from Turnitin, Mr. Chris Karen, who have all joined today. My greetings and best wishes to all of you on this occasion. The topic chosen, leveraging technology in enhancing education, is a very topical, very important at the turn of this, beginning of this decade in the 21st century. The second decade, which is beginning, is going to become more and more relevant. In fact, in the 21st century, if something is going to transform education, it is the technology. And the way it is going to enhance, the way it is going to enrich the experience for the learners. When I say learner, teachers are also learners. So teachers and students alike. they are going to be enriched by the use of technology. And that's why leveraging technology at this hour is going to be very, very important. And that's for the topic chosen by Turnitin is absolutely apt. You told about what Nelson Mandela said about education. But in our own country, about a century ago, Swami Vivekananda had said education is bringing out perfection already in man. So every human being is divine and has some capability or the other. How do we bring it out is the question which every academician should ask. And that's why when Turnitin often talks about academic integrity, this integrity covers several aspects, classroom dealings, teaching learning process, how do you revise curriculum, how do you bring relevance to the classroom in terms of practical aspects of it. All of this, which we were all doing in the classroom mode or the face-to-face mode, has, due to the pandemic, has some completely transformed. One or two institutions used to have full online courses, or few of them had partial ones. We have our own indigenous MOOC platform, Swayam. Institutions were using it, some of them not using it. We had empowered institutions to allow 20% of the credits to be taken making use of Swayam platform. We have expanded it to 40% now. But look at the kind of technology that was being used, except transforming from the chalk and blackboard type of education where a teacher used to go to the classroom and write in the blackboard. We graduated to using overhead projectors, to using LCD projectors and PowerPoint presentations, and maybe once in a while show the content on the internet. I think beyond that, very few institutions have graduated to the next level of really leveraging the technology in enhancing education. In fact, technology is such that it can really enrich the student in terms of his learning or her learning. And that's why there are different facets one has to look at. And today we have artificial intelligence, we have Internet of Things, we have machine learning, we have deep learning, data analytics, robotics, 3D printing. We also have cloud and quantum computing, cyber security, we have blockchain, and all of these topics are all connected with technology on one side, certainly yes, but they're all linked with enriching experience for the learner, that is student. And that's why this is going to become more and more important. I'll just give a couple of examples that what AICT has been doing and has been able to do, starting with even prior to the pandemic. We had a program called as teachers training program. Faculty development is important, and therefore we had what is known as Atal Academy, established 3 years ago, and we were giving training for faculty members in the new curriculum which we designed and gave it to the technical institutions, which contained all the subjects which I said, AI, IoT, machine learning and all. But training of teachers in those was very important, and we were holding workshops 50 at a time in one place, and about 3 experts were drawn in. From there, suddenly when pandemic broke last March and we had to shut down all such workshops, we were in a real quandary. And then we went back and said, why can't we leverage technology? And what we did is phenomenal. In the whole year, unlike in the previous year with more than about 500 workshops when we were able to train merely 10,000 faculty members, or 15,000 faculty members, in the online mode, instead of 50, we can have more than 200, 300, faculty joining. And why 3 experts? We have today experts who come and teach those, emerging area technology subjects, courses, drawn from as far east as Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and Japan, to as far west as US, Canada, to the middle, Europe and Asia. I think this is which is really empowering. And in the year, 948 such workshops, we trained 165,000 teachers, which is a global world record. And this is what is possible with the use of technology. We also had started a platform called NEET. National Educational Alliance for Technologies, and these were all artificial intelligence based tools which various products developed by small and big companies, some of them by startups, some of them by the big players, multinationals like IBM, Google, or Microsoft. All of them were available for students to learn. And these are all AI based. That means, depending on a subject, the test will be conducted online to understand the preparedness of the student to what level, and then a journey of the student begins to take them through a path that the outcome to be achieved at the end of the program is same. Whether someone is a fast learner, someone who had some knowledge or did not have, all of them may take little longer or shorter time depending on their interest, their capability, and where they were, but all of them get certified at the end of the program. Someone will take 3 months, someone will take the 6 months duration. And this is what we had started already 3 years back. It is an AI-based learning tool. And several companies, and today in the second level, NEET 2.0, we have today more than 100 odd products. They're all at a price. But a very interesting thing which we did was, for every 4 students who buy the product, the cost may be 3,000, 5,000 rupees, 7,000, 10,000, not very expensive, but nevertheless, for every 4 products being bought by some students, 1 free seat is to be given to AICT, and we will distribute it to children who cannot afford even those 5,000 rupees. So poor students from communities which are deprived, those who are economically deprived, we were giving them free of cost. And behold, all of this was at a cost. But during pandemic, on a single appeal from AICT to these companies, all of them rolled out these products free of cost during the entire last 1 year. And several lakhs of students got certified by Microsoft, edX. We had also Coursera courses, not only technical courses, but hands-on skill-based courses. Lot of courses which will create employability, courses which will empower students to become entrepreneurs. This is the power of technology when I'm talking about the portal, and the people with the corporate social responsibility, when they come forward, it is going to be engaging, it is going to be enriching, it is going to be educational, it is going to enhance the experience of the students. And this is what has already happened. We have another interesting thing which happened during this pandemic is the new national education policy is rolled out. And there are 3-4 very interesting elements where also technology is going to play a role. I'll tell you, this policy says not only the elementary education should be in the mother tongue, but why not even higher education? Because there are many countries of the world, whether it was Germany, Japan, or China, or many countries, in Europe also, they all learn engineering, medicine in their own mother tongue. But in India, we have 22 nationally approved languages. We have constitutional approval for them, and there are hundreds and hundreds of others which are not there, but they also are spoken by multiple people. So this is the biggest challenge, since we decided we will roll it out. So we did a very interesting job of auto translation. There are tools available both in Google, Microsoft, made use of all variety of open source material and created a tool which will translate the courses which are available in Swayam, our own MOOC platform, which is also very enlightening to know that in 3 years back, before pandemic, this started off by AICTE. Today, there are more than 3,000 courses, more than 12 million students use it from 114 countries. And this is a phenomenal improvement which has happened. We are only next to maybe edX, Coursera of the like. Otherwise, we are in the top 10 category in this platform. But these were all in English. And so what we did is we created an auto translation tool by ourselves, and it will translate to the extent of about 90%, in some cases maybe 85, in some cases 95. So there must be a finishing touch to be given by a faculty member. Certainly some interaction is required. So a faculty who is an expert in that subject, as well as who knows that language, they will do fine tuning. And we are giving this available in 8 Indian languages immediately. Indian 8 languages, and 3 other languages are already added. So it will be available in 11 of the 22 nationally recognized languages in higher education. And this time, 14 colleges have come forward to deliver engineering education in 5 Indian languages. I think this is the power of technology. Translation of not only SWAYAM courses, translation of books in English into different languages. This is going to make the life easy for many of the students who otherwise find it difficulty in understanding English. So if they're at least starting point in the first year, second year, they get knowledge in their own language, they can graduate, and we want them all to learn English as well. And in the NEET portal, there are several ones where life skills oriented programs, language learning programs in English, as well as some foreign languages, they're all available. This is the, again, I said power of technology. Then we are talking about multidisciplinary education, not monodiscipline, but multidisciplinary. And therefore, a college which is only a pure engineering college, if a student wants to learn music or wants to learn painting or photography, I think we didn't have opportunity. Today, through the use of technology, a student sitting in one place can take the course of photography from the best faculty available in the world on this topic. Same is the case with music or drama or painting. I think this is again the power of technology, which we are enabling through allowing 20 to 40% of the courses of the academic curriculum, including open electives, to be taken by students in this SWAYAM category. Then we have academic bank of credits, another interesting idea. There are multiple exit ways, pathways, and entry ways. Because many times a student gets into a program and finds that it is getting difficult for him, or it is not his cup of tea, or he has some personal difficulties, wants to quit. So he was going with empty hands. Now what we are saying is those credits can be accounted for in the account, like a bank account. And making use of these credits, he may come back to the same institution a couple of years down the line when he is settled, or may make use of these credits in another program, in another institution. I think this requires use of technology. This is where blockchain technology is going to be required, cloud is required, the big servers are required in order to keep track of every small course which is done by the student, and whatever is in a position to be encashed, not encashed, there will be regulations. It is not that anything anyone can do, and in any university he would like to encash it, but there will be certainly some restrictions. But all of this is possible with the use of technology. Then lastly, I'm telling about my own experience. I'm a regulator. AICTE regulates technical education in the country. For checking the facilities available in institutions, we used to go physically, and then there used to be a lot of charges of corruption. And we are talking about not only academic integrity, plagiarism, but even the ethos, the values which have to be there, that if an institution does have facilities, only then approval should be given. Otherwise, some hanky-panky dealing should not happen. But we used to receive complaints. Not that all of them were doing. Even the image of the organization spoils by even 1 out of 1 million also do a bad job. And this was my worry all these 5 years. Pandemic gave way. We started using Microsoft Team as the platform, and everything is now virtual. No physical interaction between the college authorities, the vice chancellor, the principal, the director, and the experts who visit. They all do it in an online platform. Everything is recorded like you are recording. So if someone has asked something, someone has said something, someone has shown something, not shown something, is all recorded in what we used to say black and white. I say now that we are recording, it is in color. It is no more black and white picture now. Today we are in Eastman color. We have multicolor. So everything is recorded, and therefore the level of transparency that has increased phenomenally in the technical education sector as a regulatory body is also, we are proud of that. And that's why when I say by and large leveraging technology can be in various forms. It is not only classroom teaching, it can be even laboratory classes. In fact, I have got ample proof that some of the experiments can be done better in a simulation mode, virtual mode, because you can change parameters at will. And it's very difficult in a physical experiment. And sometimes using AR and VR, augmented reality, virtual reality, you will participate in the experiment. You can be moving along with the piston in an IC engine, or you will be rotating with a rotor in a turbo machine. This kind of an exposure. In medical education, people can get into the heart and see how it is pumping the blood. I think this is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm happy that the topic chosen by Turnitin, leveraging technology in enhancing education, we can discuss, and the opportunities galore. It is only the innovative mindset, the culture of change, transformation, If we imbibe, I'm sure the education will become much, much better in the years to come. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experiences with us. I would now introduce Mr. Chris Carroll, Chief Executive Officer of Turnitin, who joins us today from Oakland, California. Chris joined Turnitin in 2009 as CEO and has led the transition from a company focused on plagiarism prevention to one that provides solution to promote academic integrity. He holds an MBA with distinction from Kellogg School of Management and Bachelor's of Science in Engineering from Stanford University. I would now request Mr. Chris Carroll to take the stage and welcome our guests for today.
Thank you very much, Amisha. Hopefully my audio is working okay. Great. Well, good to be here. I was very pleased to get the invite to spend a few minutes and introduce a bit about slightly on our company history, more about our plans and ambitions forward and how we can better serve more broadly serve the global higher education system, the global research community, and also high schools around the world. As was just described, I joined the company about 12 years ago. My career is in software, but it wasn't until Turnitin that I really focused on software for the benefit of education. A particular draw for me to the company was how global the focus is of Turnitin. We're probably the most global and likely also the highest scale education technology in the world. And scope of impact and scale of impact is very important to me and to our company. My mother is a retired college professor. My dad was a lifelong researcher and physicist. So the customers we serve is very near and dear to my upbringing. I was going to share a couple slides just to give you a bit more background on where we came from and where we're going. So let me do that right now. Hopefully you can see this. Can someone please just give me a quick verbal, yeah, we have the slide?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jen. So, you know, we originally, as was talked about earlier, started as a company really focused on ensuring the integrity of student writing, of researcher research. So it was about detecting, deterring plagiarism or integrity issues in written IP or written evidence of learning. And we're really trying to broaden as a company to support assessment, integrity, and most importantly, improving learning outcomes across all subject areas and all kinds of student work. We started 20 years ago out of UC Berkeley. 4 graduate students had the idea in the early days of the internet to build an internet-based application. So if you're in a large course at Berkeley, let's say freshman year English, and you're writing papers for evidence of mastery of writing and analysis, feedback tended to be very delayed in the paper-based process, and also very limited as far as guidance on how to write a better paper, how to be a better investigator, a better journalist. And so their idea was, let's put student papers online, make them anonymous, and let peer review happen, much like it does in research, so that students not only get feedback from their instructor, but feedback from their classmates. And you can actually also get a great insight into, I had a paper that got 1 mark, maybe there's papers that were much better. Let me read those as examples of exemplar performance in writing. And the students almost by accident discovered there were issues of work taken off the internet and plagiarized in written work. And so this discovery that the internet was enabling copy and paste plagiarism was almost an accidental discovery that became the formation for the early years of our company. And we've evolved from there, but really the genesis was peer review system for student writing, stumbled on an issue with academic integrity in essays. It became kind of the founding innovation for the business. Today, our mission is much broader. Our goal is to very much have a global focus, not a US higher education focus, to focus on integrity of not just student writing, but any kind of assignment where integrity is important, whether it's computer code, an image, homework that's handwritten, a problem set to make sure there's not collusion, just to ensure that evidence of learning has integrity with it, whatever that assignment type might be. So a big change for us is try to cover any kind of assignment where integrity is important for the learner and also for the institution, and to make sure we do that so with a very global mindset as far as accessibility, language, assignment type, etc. And really the end goal is not just to ensure integrity of student evidence of learning, but to help generate data for educators to improve learning outcomes. That means if you have a class, let's say in mechanical engineering, you've taught a concept, you give a quiz, use the data on student responses to inform the instructor on what concepts the class is not mastered yet, so you can reteach it next week. What particular subset of students have learning challenges or are missing certain concepts that are at risk of dropping the course or failing or not passing a professional certification, so you can take that cohort away and remediate their learning gap. So really, we're moving from being about ensuring integrity of student assignments to gathering the data once the assignment's assessed to really help teachers become more effective in having student success happen in a broader and faster way. We're very broad in our scope. I mentioned before, we're probably the most global in reach of any education technology provider. So over 20 years, we've gotten the pleasure of working with 15,000 institutions around the world, many of whom are in South Asia. In fact, South Asia is one of our highest areas of growth. 40 million students covered by our solutions. We're in many, many countries, as mentioned earlier, 140 in total. You know, a lot of what makes our service well for ensuring integrity of writing is content. So it includes web pages, of which we have 91 billion, student papers submitted to date, which is 1.4 billion, and many, many scientific journals, both open access research, but also proprietary research from the likes of Nature, Science, New England Journal of Medicine, et cetera, to make sure we can also serve researchers and granting institutions well also. So over 20 years, we've been able to grow very high scale and make our solutions much more effective for our customers. So our vision, as I mentioned before, started with integrity of writing. It's broadened to be integrity of any kind of student work, quiz, test, paper-based assignment, or digital work like a computer code or an essay. To broaden from being about starting with ensuring integrity to helping educators with the grading and feedback of student assignments, to not just make sure the integrity is there, but also to give feedback to students on how to improve, take the data on what students have mastered and not, and use that data to really improve teacher focus to improve, in the end, learning outcomes. So it's a very broad evolution from essays to any assignment, from integrity to grading and feedback, and finally using the data on how students are progressing to help teachers be more effective in where they focus and who they focus on. So it's a big broadening of our ambition, but it's one we feel like is very important. As mentioned before by our distinguished speaker, with the move from COVID to distance learning, assessment, grading, and feedback all went digital. And so I think COVID, for all of the bad things it's done to the world, did move education forward and bringing digital solutions much more quickly into the student experience and the teacher experience. And we think that's here to stay, and we can hopefully play a big part in helping serve our customers around the world. So our aspirations is to really cover the broad sort and spectrum of integrity that matters to our customers. That's the top blue boxes, from similarity of written work to previously authored work, authorship, making sure even though the work's original, ensure it's written by the student, not by a hired writer or by an AI writing bot, where we're taking tests that are high stakes from home or in a classroom, using artificial intelligence to ensure the identity of the test taker is who they say they are, through facial recognition and things of that nature, as well as being able to monitor or proctor a test taker remotely via artificial intelligence or via a remote proctor via webcam to make sure a test taker doesn't cut a corner or cheat to disadvantage the rest of the class. So the top four boxes are really the broadening of our focus on different aspects of integrity. And by the way, similarity started out about essays. It includes now things like computer code as well. And then importantly, as part of an evolution on the bottom, this platform we're enabling also covers more kinds of assignments and more subject areas. So it now allows you to create assignments, whether it's a piece of a problem set, a high stakes test you're developing digitally. We're moving from just accepting student essays to being a platform that delivers quizzes and tests to a test taker, to a student on their device, enabling grading and feedback, Again, not just for essays, but for any kind of assignment, multiple choice, video, image, whatever that might be. And then importantly, analyzing the data. Where are students mastering concepts? Where are they falling behind? What particular students are in trouble, to make sure, again, that we can maximize learning outcomes of our customers and the students they serve. And the far right, historically we focus on academia, on universities, on research institutions, on high schools, but we're also trying to do the same more and more in corporate learning, professional learning. Our distinguished speaker earlier spoke about how people are doing more lifelong learning, getting certifications, getting micro-credentials. So we want to play a role in traditional education at a university or an institution, but also deliver these services to the likes of a Coursera, a Udemy, whether it's localized or global, for people that are mastering new concepts, new areas of growth throughout their career, not just traditional higher education or secondary education. So we view South Asia as an incredibly important market to us. There's rapid adoption of education technology that was happening pre-COVID, and I think COVID has accelerated. There's been a lot of new government-sponsored initiatives, including in India, the National Education Policy 2020, as well as work out of Sri Lanka and other parts of South Asia that bring change and a focus on outcomes and effective assessment for skills that matter in the workforce that we're helping to hopefully enable very effectively for our customers. We're all about helping schools succeed in graduating students to be successful in their careers and to maximize, in the end, educators do the hard work of teaching and graduating successful students, but we hope to be a helpful platform making that happen. South Asia is a very important part of our mission and our future. 4 years ago, we really had no presence in South Asia. Now we have probably 40 people and growing very quickly to help serve our market there. Global higher education enrollments are projected to double in the next 20 years. And most of the growth is in areas like India, like Sri Lanka, like Bangladesh, like Bhutan. And so we want to be very strongly present and maximize our partnerships in that part of the world to hopefully help those growing enrollments be even more successful in learning and mastery and in career success. So I'm very happy to be here. Very glad you all attended. I want to thank you for your time. Hope the event is useful to all of you. Look forward to speaking to you in the years to come. And with that, I will pass things back to our moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Chris, for the introduction address. Now, we will move towards the next session of today's conclave, a panel discussion on how technology helps build resilient education ecosystems. Today, we have a panel of esteemed speakers who have led the digital transformation in their own institutions. We will hear from them about their practices that they have implemented in their institutions, along with the way forward. I have the pleasure of introducing our moderator for the day, Dr. Sandeep Shastri, Vice Chancellor, Jagran Lake City University, Bhopal. Dr. Shastri prefers to describe himself as a teacher by instinct, researcher by choice, trainer by passion, and above all, a lifelong learner. He is the author of 13 books, has also been a Ford Foundation Fellow, an Indo-Canadian Fellow, and appears frequently as a political commentator in CNBC, India Today, CNN, and other leading news networks. He's a consultant to prestigious international bodies like the United Nations, World Bank, and the Forum of Federations. Moving ahead, our panel today comprises some of the most renowned names from the field of academics in South Asia. We are honored to welcome Professor Chandrika Vijayratne, Vice Chancellor, University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. She is a senior professor of reproductive medicine, Faculty of Medicine at University of Colombo, also the past president of Sri Lanka Medical Association. an awardee for International Excellence by Endocrine Society of USA in recognition of her pioneering work on the ethnic variation of polycystic ovary syndrome and managing diabetes in pregnancy in a limited resource setting. Welcome, madam, to the panel today. I'm proud to present our second panelist of the day, Professor Dr. Mohammed Alamgir. Professor Alamgir is a member of University Grants Commission, Bangladesh. He has been awarded with the JSPS Postdoctoral Fellowship from Saga University, Japan. His research area covers solid waste, geotechnical, and geoenvironmental engineering and climate change issues. Professor Alamgir is credited with more than 254 technical papers published in conference and is also the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Engineering Science, published by KUET since 2010. We welcome you, sir, to the panel today. Our next panelist for the day is Professor Benal Ariel. He is the Dean of Institute of Science and Technology, Tribhuvan University, Nepal. He did his PhD from University of Innsbruck, Austria, and has been awarded his postdoctoral fellowship by University of Washington and University of Innsbruck, Austria. Professor Ariel has co-authored 2 books, has served as the editor for 4 academic journals, and has contributed to more than 78 referred research journals and more than 120 newspaper articles. We are honored to have you, sir, with us. Our next panelist for the day is Professor Dr. N.J. Pawar, Vice Chancellor, Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth, Dean to be University. In his career of over 35 years, Dr. Pawar has been a teacher, researcher, and an academic administrator. Dr. Pawar did his PhD in geology in 1985 from the University of Pune and was the recipient of the Young Scientist Award instituted by Indian Science Congress Association for his research work. He has published over 85 research papers on popularization of science, besides several popular articles. In recognition of his research work, he was elected as a Fellow of Maharashtra Academy of Science, Fellow of Geological Society of India, and Life Member, Gondwana Geological Society, Life Member, Indian Mineralogical Society, and Indian Geotechnical Society. Thank you, sir, for accepting to be our panelist today.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next panelist is Professor Ashok Kumar Das, Vice Chairperson, Orissa State Higher Education Council. Professor Das was a distinguished scientist at the Bhabha Atomic Research Center and headed the Laser and Plasma Technology Division up to 2014. He has worked extensively on the low temperature processing plasmas, electron beams, laser, particularly on application-based devices and processes. Apart from the Department of Atomic Energy, Professor Das has collaborated with DRDO, ISRO, in programs related to development of high enthalpy devices. He has been a research guide with HBNI, Mumbai University, and University of Pune. He has been facilitating plasma science and technology research across the country as member of Program Advisory Committee of DST, Chairman of Planning Committee for Plasma Schools, Chairman of Program Advisory Committee. We welcome Professor Das to the panel today. Last but not the least, I'm also proud to present Professor Chiranjeev Kumar, Dean Academic and professor in the Department of Computer Science at Indian Institute of Technology and Indian Institute of Mines, Dhanbad. Professor Kumar joined IIT Dhanbad as senior lecturer in the year 2005 and has been working as a professor since November 2017 in his 20 years of teaching and research career. He has contributed more than 100 research papers in several refereed journals and conference proceedings. His main research interests include mobility management in wireless networks, ad hoc networks, and software engineering. He is a senior IEEE member. We welcome Professor Kumar to the panel. I would now request all the panelists to take the stage and Professor Sandeep Das to begin the panel discussion. Before that, we have enabled the Q&A section in the webinar, and I will request the participants to put their questions in the Q&A section. For any comments, please put it in the chat section. Over to you, Professor Shastri.
Thank you so much, Amisha, and welcome to my fellow panelists. I feel truly humbled and honored to be moderating this discussion of eminent educationists from South Asia, and before an audience which is deeply committed and deeply plugged into the understanding and study of higher education in the South Asia region. Friends, we 7 of us have had a chance to get together and discuss how we are taking forward this panel discussion. After a few opening comments, I would pose a question to each of our panelists, and they would respond to that in 5 minutes time each. And that would also be the opening comments which our panelists would make. And once the 6 panelists complete their opening comments based on the question that they were responding to, we will then have a brief dialogue among the panelists on the issues they raised before opening it up for a question and answer from the audience. I think in the title of today's virtual conference, I would believe 2 words are extremely important: leveraging and enhancing. We are talking of leveraging technology and enhancing education. I think we have passed the phase of dialogue where we ask the question about why technology for enhancing education. It's more a question of how technology for enhancing education, the whole question of the ecosystem that is needed to be able to leverage technology for higher education. And I think for all of us, the principal factor that all of us keep in mind at the end of the day is learning is the goal at the end of the day. Digital medium, technology, or anything else are simply pathways for us to be able to reach that ultimate goal of learning. So learning first, learning always is the goal with which we pursue issues in higher education, and we look at various strategies to be able to take that forward. Now, having said this, let me come to my first panelist, Professor Chandrika, and raise with Professor Chandrika an important question. Professor Chandrika, can technology make it easier to build learner-centered experiences? If Chandrika ma'am could respond to this in 5 minutes, that would be wonderful.
Ayubowan, sir. I bring you warm greetings from the University of Colombo, the pioneer in modern education in Sri Lanka. We reached 150 years in medicine in 2020 and in science and the humanities this year. But of course, our students have not been on campus for the major part of the last 14 months. So no doubt the pandemic catapulted us to this new era of leveraging, as you said, through technology, but encouraging proper learning. So to answer your question of is technology making it easier to build learner-centered experiences, permit me to explore student-centered education. On a historical perspective, 20th century science discovery through research and technology has made far-reaching impact. Families, communities, societies were transformed in every aspect of work, outlook, expectations, and lifestyle. Thereby, the landscape of education had to grapple with the multitude of changing needs. Higher education in particular faced many challenges with regards to the graduates being increasingly recognized as not being fashioned to respond to the changing needs of society. So the underlying reason for this mismatch was the traditional educational process of yesteryear that encouraged transferring of mega doses of information from teacher to student, and often the student had to recall it by memory. And I reiterate that this form of education was appropriate at a time when access to information was limited, particularly limited to an exclusive few. So the internet and electronic communication gave access to vast libraries at the touch of a button, potentially for any person from any corner of the globe. And this basically paved the way for our students to become self-reliant and independent of a teacher-centered education. So the teacher's role from being a source of information, therefore, changed to becoming a proactive supervisor. The teacher's role was converted to guiding students with a shift towards problem solving through learner-centered education. Therefore, now that we are in the third decade of the 21st century, information being accessed by very small tools from any
Ma'am, you have gone on mute, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. So as I said, in our current decade, we can access information from even a pocket size or even smaller tool. And our learners, young learners are very familiar and ready for the process, although we need to improve access and availability of devices to support this. So we need to encourage the students to become self-reliant, active learners from childhood. And today what matters is not the knowledge alone, but how you apply knowledge to match the needs of society. Knowledge transfer of the traditional university college has become disadvantageous. Traditional face-to-face knowledge transfer through a teacher-centered approach became widely critiqued by the turn of the millennium. So novel methods of learning, rather than an emphasis on teaching style, was required to harness a purpose-built human capital. So respected members of this panel and participants, I'm certain we are unanimous in saying that the 21st century's chosen adult education process is learning through discovery. Learner-centered education with flexibility in time, approach to encourage innovation and creativity is required for this transformation. So I posed the question, did the fourth industrial revolution make this educational transformation? While acknowledging that this technology-driven change has made a change, we need to recall that the sustainable development goals that we strive to ensure leaves no one left behind. Learner-centered education must encourage developing cohorts of sound policymakers who respect diversity of all kinds, are environmentally conscious, ensure equity, good governance, leadership for people of all income groups and nations. In Madeline Weimer's book of 1995, she highlighted that classrooms were extremely instructor-centered, and this situation worked against students becoming successful, mature learners. In fact, the teacher-centeredness was a balance of power and very skewed in the form of the responsibility of learning. So I quote the director of our own staff development center, Professor Nazima Kamandin, who emphasizes that quality of learning is extremely important with technology supports. For example, the rubrics for effective.
Ma'am, if you could take 30 seconds more, please.
Yes. So on a teacher's role, Gloria Brown Wright says that we have to move from being the sage on the stage to be the guide on the side. And there is the concept of the disappearing tutor. So what I would suggest at this point of time is that we need to use technology where the learner is directed to various sources of information. encouraged to research by themselves, and to integrate the technology, identify what is exactly required, and examine the areas of technology. I shall stop now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Chandrika, for that very, very succinct analysis of the transformation of the role of a facilitator, of how application of knowledge rather than garnering of knowledge is more critical. And of course, the question you yourself have posed in the box, where is the question of access to technology? Wonderful, man. That's a wonderful start to our dialogue. Let me move on to Professor Chiranjeev Kumar. Chiranjeev sir, how can technology help in improving classroom instruction and feedback in order to motivate learners to generate authentic work? So we are talking about technology improving classroom dialogue, motivating learners, and ensuring authentic work from the learners.
Thank you, Professor Sastry. Thank you, the team of Turnitin, for inviting me to this conclave. To answer to your question, Dr. Sastry, altogether, it's a big responsibility of the instructor. Everything comes in the hand of instructor, how he wants to make the things possible. It is an instructor who will take a help of technology to make the learner motivated, and automatically once the learner is motivated, they will do authentic work. Professor Chandrika rightly said that the online platform in itself is a large ocean of random content. It's an unlimited information present there. You just type something, you'll get thousands of information in just a fraction of a second. Now the question is, are all those information relevant? What should be the mechanism, how to screen out the most irrelevant part from the information that you have got? So here the experience and the mentorship comes in a picture. So that can never be subsided, alienated, or replaced. I think there are two important aspects. If we could able to achieve those two important things, we'll be able to make the learner motivated. The first thing is transparency in the system. And the second thing is an environment where one should have a smooth exchange of opinion between both the stakeholders. Now the concern is making the transparency in the system, how we can take a help of technology. Let's take a very simple example of Turnitin. What Turnitin provides, let's say similarity index, for example. Similarity index, it is very helpful for the researcher. Researcher will place his research paper, he'll get what is the similarity index, and accordingly he'll take a call, he'll give Can we think about applying the similar idea in the classroom? Let's say if you talk about, because now the students and the instructors are digitally divided. Can we think about a mechanism where we'll ask the student to, before sending the answer to the instructor, you post it to the middle part and you see what is the similarity index of your answer. So once he'll see that, okay, there is a much of similarity, what mechanism he should adopt? Because he needs to submit the answer. If he will not answer, the assessment will not be possible. Definitely he'll put his brain, will try to understand what he wants to say. He may mold the answers, he may do some crafting over the sentences, but you can't do without having a clear concept of what you are going to respond. So that is so once this is known to the student that what he is posting, at the same time, there could be a mechanism so that, let's say once the score is declared, that how he has performed, then a platform should provide to the student where the student can make a comparison of what he answered and what was the responses of others. He can do some analysis. He can understand where all mistakes were. Why I got less marks or my peer got more marks. What was their answer? So that kind of comparison, that kind of data analysis, so everything will be transparent. The student can see, okay, this was my response and this is a response where someone got a better answer. It will be very helpful for the teacher where he can check the originality. What is the originality of the work? So what I want to say that we should give more focus, more importance to originality rather than representation. The normal trend is what we prefer, whatever we deliver to the class, if someone is presenting in the same form, we prefer that, yes, it is a good answer and we generally give the good marks. So this is not a way of motivating. We should respect the originality. Yes, correctness always should be there, but at the same time, respecting the originality is more important. Another concern, there are many technologies which is coming up, even artificial intelligence based. You'll see that you have a 360 degree views of the classroom where you, the room where you're sitting, you'll be able to. So all those things are there, but
have we lost Professor Chiranjeev Kumar?
Yes, it looks like connectivity issues.
We'll come back to Professor Chiranjeev Kumar when he is back, but and I think his 5 minutes was nearly getting over. Can I come to Alamgir ji now? Professor Alamgir, I think both Dr. Chandrika and Dr. Chiranjeev have set the stage for the question I wanted to pose to you, which is, how do we ensure greater accountability of all stakeholders to ensure the sanctity of the learning process when conducted through the online mode? Because there are a lot of questions coming up about accountability when you are doing assessment through the online mode. So how would you respond to that, Dr. Alamgir?
Thank you, Professor Sandeep. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, you are, sir. You are, sir.
Good morning. Greetings from Bangladesh. And I would like to thank Turnitin for organizing this wonderful conclave. You know that due to COVID-19 pandemic, the online education system in our existing in-person traditional education system without any warning has been changed, dramatical change. And you know that this abrupt change, not gradual, and it is not natural at all, and not planned, even not due to the innovation of new pedagogy or due to the invent of new technology of communication. It is just due to the creation of unprecedented situation around the world. That means this COVID pandemic. But you know that with a lot of confusions and hesitations prevails both from the students and teachers, and it is accepted by the stakeholders with some reservations, because presently we don't have any alternatives, because we have to stay in home. And you know that almost more than 15 months, all the educational institutions in our country remain closed. So it is now almost replaces our traditional education system up to some extent. Now the question is that as the online mode of this new system, one can easily raise the questions about its sanctity, and which are very important issues to get to the acceptance and to ensure reliability and keep all the systems without any disparity, because still there is a lot of confusion about the mindset, even from the end of the students and also from the end of the teachers. But since we entered already in this system, so we have to ensure the quality of the system so that people will accept it. But what will be the look and how we can ensure it? And let us look at the stakeholders, because education system is not a commodity, so it needs the stakeholders involvement. Even the receiver end, they are also most important stakeholders, and they have the accountability also. So if we identify the stakeholders, first of all, it is institution, students, teachers, parents, employers, government, and also the society. and all the stakeholders should have the accountability. Otherwise, we cannot ensure the quality or sanctity of the education system. That means online mode, which is now prevails. And the most important things, it needs the accountability. Why? One naturally demands that the online mode learning of education process should have meet the declared standard, because if you go for a particular system, you have to declare that what is the standard of the system. So you must meet this declared standard and be quality assured and accredited. And also it should have the recognition, because the confusion whether it will be recognized internationally, even nationally, all these things. So the simplest approach to ensure the sanctity are institutions should have clearly spelled out the quality assurance mechanism. What will be the quality assurance mechanism? How you will ensure the quality, and to the staffs who will deliver the systems and to the students who will receive the systems, and make sure that these are implemented, not in the book, not in the declaration, but it should be implemented. It means that there needs absolutely quality education, which only be ensured through well-equipped and well-qualified and definitely motivated staffs, goods and continuous quality assurance mechanism and supportive leadership. Without, we cannot ensure the accountability and we cannot ensure the quality. And one important thing that you have to throw a process, this online process, in the contrast of our traditional process. So the approach, it is not the lecture room online, just we deliver the lecture, but rather than it should be an active learning classroom online. That means not a lecture, but should be active learning classroom, and it should provide all the opportunities and all the interaction as we enjoyed between our face-to-face or in-person education systems. So you know that our online mode mainly stands on the 5 pillars: teaching, learning, activities, and most importantly, the assessment. And on class activities, digital infrastructure and protocols. And if we like to ensure the quality, if we like to ensure the sanctity of this online mode of education system, we have to ensure that all these systems are active. And it is, for example, teaching, learning activities and assessment should have the reliable, and people will accept it. So if we consider that, I also mentioned earlier that education is not the commodity, it requires accountability from the stakeholders. So every part is in the possible list. I can identify 3 main. One is the students who will receive the systems, another one is the teachers who will deliver the system, and another thing is the administrator. That means institution who will arrange all this. Forget about the other stakeholders. These 3 are the main stakeholders. So if you can ensure the accountability of these stakeholders, then you can ensure quality of.
Sir, can we conclude the point?
And just for the students, and students should be supportive. So they have to accept and they have to spell out what they like to, what is their expectation in this new system. At the same time, the teachers should organize the things in such a way that they have accountable the students and they will organize other things. And any administration or institution should set up the reliable and easy use of online platform, and it should ensure the accessibility of all. So these things we have to ensure. Otherwise, it is difficult to acceptance of this new system. Finally, I can say that teachers is the main actor to ensure the sanctity in learning process in any mode. It might be in person or online or blended. And we need only the high commitment to ensure, not the resources. Otherwise, we cannot ensure it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alamgir, for highlighting the importance of online learning having to be active learning and not a one-way dialogue, which I'm sure will come up more in the discussion as we go ahead. I will now move to Professor Ashok Das and maybe shift a little gear. Das sir, can technology help create a smoother way of bridging the skill gap between industry demands and academic curriculum. What would be your take on this, Ashok Das sir?
Good morning. I think that's a good issue to be raised. Simply, Professor Sahasrabuddhe's address, the beginning address, also focuses on this. As we have gone from industry 3.0 to 4.0 to 5.0 and got more into information technologies and artificial intelligence, we have found that apart from the foundational knowledge, skill has become very important, more on soft skill, because the child, after he passes out from the higher education institutions, the industry wants them industry enabled, and that enabling has not happened. For example, the problem solving capabilities, for example, the interpersonal relation, they have been found lacking. So if you look at the difference between what the industry considers as important and that index, and what the graduates that come out have, it is found that across the globe it varies from 10 to 50%. And that was a gap that needed to be addressed. Now, how do we do this? Now, there are two kinds of skill gaps that we need to address. One is the hardcore skill, the domain skill, because the technology improves, and so the skill gap improves, because education has been responding very slowly. The curriculums have not been adaptive, and we know the reality that the response of the education to go from 3 to 4 has been fairly slow, and we have not thought of the 5 as such. So therefore, we need to have addressed this in some manner. One of the solutions that came up, because pandemic in a way acted as a catalyst. And what did the pandemic do? There was a problem in skill learning particular, where there is an intimate relationship between the instructor and the student, and the nature of the skill is such that you solve a problem on hand or face a problem and find a solution. And so people started internationally, the gamification platforms, the problem solving platforms, the interactive platforms, the virtual realities, the augmented realities, and coming to a much lower hierarchical level, the student practical skills, the student practicals in STEM areas started coming in. Now the issue that we must address, and that is continuously raising its head, is that it has become very efficient. It has provided us the scales that we needed to address the equity and access. Scales are unprecedented. Learner centrism is very good. Access to information and content is terrific. But what has been missing is the link between the instructor and the student, and therefore we question the effectiveness. Has it been effective? I think this better solution is, and we have been advising this in our state and across our universities, that the first barrier is the examination, the assessment system. I think the assessment system must become strengthened, and strengthened really depending on the skill gaps that are very important to the industry now, and the subjects that are very important now. So the onset of artificial intelligence and sophistication has somehow brought in the accumulated experience of over the number of years and number of people, and made an uniformization of the skill sets that are available on virtual reality or augmented realities or the simulated experiments. And then a few personal interactions, on hand work could probably help this to become effective. But this is a question that needs to be answered. Definitely, it will enhance. Definitely, onset of technology has increased the scale, addressed the sustainable development goals, addressed the equity, which we are very worried that a tribal can, through the available tools, can access things which he was not able to access. But has it been effective? And are we able to address the issue of digital infrastructure and the digital divide, which is called? So for the administrators, for the teachers, This is the most important question in translating, putting technology onto skill and translating into across the scale, an unprecedented scale, that will it become effective? Will it go to the last bench, last boy in the class, and will he become as effective as he was being taught by a master in the trade? So to me, these are extremely important, but I am optimistic and I am sure we can find a solution. After all, human beings have shown their capabilities to be really great,
Right.
even in the face of pandemic. Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you so much, Ashok Das. Ashok Das, thank you for raising his question of the Antyodaya, reaching the last person and not leaving out anybody in the process. That I thought was a very, very important philosophical point for all of us to focus on. Our organizers are also posing a question to all the participants on the chat that how can you all come up with an example or one ideal of not the why of technology, but the how of technology with regard to higher education? So I'm sure our organizers are going to put up that. So I look forward to responses of people for that. May I now move to Professor Binil Aryaji. Professor Aryalji, how do you think technology can build a better education community in terms of learnings? In terms of the learning process, how do you think technology can build that more effective education community?
Thank you, Dr. Sastry. Good morning from Nepal. I am from Tribhuvan University, the largest national university in which about 80% students study from undergraduate to doctorate up to postdoctorate level. We have about 400,000 students in more than 1,000 colleges throughout the nation. So since last year, we are running almost 90% classes using a MS Team platform at all levels and disciplines. At all levels and disciplines, we have officially announced or fixed Moodle as LMS of our university. Now we need to work very sincerely on online pedagogy. This is extremely essential for the future of our students as well as for the faculties, for their professional development. Now I come to the point, I will try to give my answer of the questions raised by Dr. Sastry on the basis of my experience. As we all know, technology allows learners to help each other and work together to better understand. So there are varieties of students in our classroom. Some are overactive, slow learner, teachers pet, hard workers but silent. Few are quick, extraordinary, clown, clueless, varieties of students. So what we believe is technology offers these learners in a way that a typical classroom lecture cannot. For example, a student might use videos, YouTube videos, tutorial to better understand a concept. Others might complete an online activity or maybe the game that provides instant feedback to their problem. Students who understand the content right away can find more difficult problems or in-depth problems or activities as supplement to their knowledge. So a student who need more practice, particularly for the slow learner, more practice can use a different activity that provides more repetitions through the technology. So we all know interactive type of quizzes, participating in group discussions through small presentations help all kinds of students or the learners in the classes. So in that sense, technology can sometimes serve as the teachers, and not only as a tool. And learning through instruction is found to be very effective. So not only to the students, also teachers enjoy technology because it offers plenty of tools to enhance classroom learning, communication with the parents, which is extremely important these days at all levels, even at the higher education levels, and their own professional development, which is extremely important for the faculties. Yes, there are cons as well. We all know heavy use of technology can distract students, particularly the undergraduate students or maybe school students. Technology removes students, this is, I believe this, from opportunities for socialization. This is very important part. And technology can, there is a debate on this issue. Probably technology can discourage creativity, and technology enhance technology enhance critical ability of students. Probably it can discourage if we use our student or learner use in a different way. There are pros which are reality of the future for the student. There are very strong pros. All panelists already explained those pros. Using technology can excite young students. Technology prepares students for the future. Technology encourages spontaneous learning, which is extremely important to gain skill and also to gain empowerment through their curriculum. In my opinion, technology can help students by making learning more engaging and collaborative. The engagement and collaboration is essential part for the future. We in our university, Tribhuvan University, we have recently we have Turnitin as well as online library access to our students, to our all students. They can visit to online library. Recently, we have collaborated with National Digital Library India. So our students have also, the faculties have a huge facility in terms of online library. Now we are working for online exam models. Now we are using a few models for the assessment exam. For the final exam, we are working for other models, as well as we are sincerely working for virtual laboratory access, particularly in the areas of engineering, basic science, and technology. We have already introduced at the undergraduate level virtual laboratory access to our students and running several trainings to the faculties. So as a sum, technology is extremely important to have a better learning environment to our learners, for teachers and students, as well as to the administrators.
Professor Binil, sir, could we conclude
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
I end up.
Let me move to our last panelist, Dr. Pawar. Dr. Pawar, this question is more or less the same as the one for Professor Binil, but marginally different. Can technology build a better education community in terms of outcomes? While Binil sir focused on learnings, I would like you to focus on outcomes. How can technology build better education communities in terms of outcomes?
Thank you, Professor Shastri, for giving me an opportunity to give some of my thoughts. At the outset, let me inform you all that I'm working at the Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth, which is a deemed to be university, which is a medical university based in Pune. Essentially, it is a multi-faculty university with 10 different disciplines: medical, dental, Ayurveda, homeopath. We also have physiotherapy. We also have the nursing as well as biotechnology and management schools. So for the last many years, nearly 25 years, we are in the education sector and looking after many of the issues related to the economy. Now, coming to the point which is related to the outcome-based education, let me also inform you all that very recently, AICTE has been continuously focusing on outcome-based education, particularly in professional streams, particularly in engineering and other streams. Very recently, in the medical stream, the competency-based curriculum also has come into focus. And that is being implemented now in many medical universities across India. And therefore, your program outcomes have to be very well defined. The reason this change is occurring is in order to face the challenges which are posed before us by the 21st century, wherein we have to see to it that the teacher-centric methods we are doing away with, and then more focus is on the student-centric methods, and wherein the student is empowered with respect to some kind of activities which will empower him in terms of 4 important pillars of the requirement of any graduate. Number 1 is his competency in terms of knowledge skills, his competency in terms of the professional skills. They could be domain specific, they could be life skills, they could be any other technical skills. Third thing is that in terms of attitude, how best we can galvanize the attitude of the learner. And lastly, in all these 3 areas, we also have to add one, and that is in terms of value system. For example, in medical education, ethics is an important aspect, and therefore, whether your curriculum will define this particular bioethics as an important component of the curriculum. And therefore, we have to see to it that all those 4 kinds of attributes of education are being fulfilled. Any graduate, one who comes out, has to possess certain kinds of graduate attributes. He has to be a good professional, he has to be a skilled professional, he has to be a knowledgeable, he has to have good communication, he also has to be equally conscious about the environment, about the community. And therefore, these are some of the important aspects of graduate attributes which we'll have to see. Now, any program which we have to see, the program has to be taken into consideration in terms of defining specific program outcomes. These program outcomes, you will have to link them up with the course outcomes, learner outcomes. And therefore, it will be possible for us to define right from the unit level to course level to program level, all the outcomes. And those outcomes we need to define. And therefore, the basic need in order to see to it that all these outcomes are achieved and how they can be assessed, that requires a continuous training of a teacher first, right from curriculum design and development to teaching learning methods, and then following the assessment methods in tune with what we are defining. If we today look at the outcome-based education and its implementation, I must inform you all that there's tremendous impetus given to the faculty development and training. Without faculty development and training, it is not possible for us to really train the teachers in terms of tuning their mindset, in terms of newly implemented curriculum in various faculties. Maybe it is the pharmaceutical sciences, maybe it is engineering, maybe it is architecture, maybe it is medical. But we'll have to define these outcomes, specify them. The reason being, any good education or better education, we have to have the outcomes defined. And therefore, outcome is finally going to culminate into demonstration of learning. How the learner demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and other allied skills that he has acquired, he has to demonstrate. And therefore, that is something which will define the quality of
Professor Pawar, could we conclude in 20 seconds, please?
Yes, please. And therefore, we have to see that each and every outcome, learning outcome, is visible and observable in demonstration of 3 main things, which is knowledge combined with competence, which is combined with orientation. So all these 3 are to be required in any graduate, and therefore we have to ensure that these outcomes are being achieved by the students during the process of learning. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Pawar sir. We have had all our 6 panelists making certain very, very insightful comments. And we also have had very interesting questions coming from the audience. So let me open up the second phase of the discussion, and my suggestion is this. There are, to start with, 4 or 5 issues which seem to be coming up and which also flow from the presentations which these 6 panelists made. I'm going to take each of them one by one and maybe go to a few of you and request you each to take not more than a minute to be able to highlight the important point that you would like to make on that particular issue. Let me start with Professor Chandrika. Professor Chandrika, there has been this discussion that has gone on that many of us have adopted technology not by choice, but by necessity, especially during the pandemic. And when we go back to when we go into a post-pandemic world where we talk about blended learning, a combination of offline and online, how do you see that panning out in the days ahead?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
I think your question is pertinent because we were probably in need of moving out to a blended learning mode, which makes things so much more easier, very student friendly, more student friendly than teacher friendly. And the fact that you can support even more students if we are successful, because there's always that point about, we are leaving out students. And the fact that to address issues like what was later discussed about outcome-based learning and the fact that we need to ensure quality assurance, the fact that we can be more flexible, more student-friendly, review issues, as was told about knowledge, learning outcomes, competencies. It is something that is dynamic. And the fact that we have to go into the blended learning mode is something that we need to appreciate rather than imagining we can go to the pre-COVID classroom style unidirectional learning process, which was not really probably optimal learning.
Sure.
No doubt the industry.
Professor Binil, would you like to take that question also, possibly?
Yeah, right. Probably blended modality we should accept after this COVID pandemic, but there are several unanswered questions regarding the blended modality, particularly in the technological sector and also in terms of socialization within the students, because students need to work together, need to discuss together, to have a better, to learn a reasoning process. So reasoning process is extremely important. So reasoning process cannot be taken out from the individuals. It should come from the group of the students, group of the learners, including the faculties. So this is one of the challenges. There are many more challenges. Another important challenge is our students are far ahead of if you compare with the faculties. Faculties are a little bit hesitant towards the new technology. They don't want to invest lots of time. Probably they are not, in general, I'm saying in general, they are not very much in support of technology in general. So this is a main point. We have to make our teacher, our faculties more technology friendly. So this is the biggest challenge, rather than
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Binil. I'm now moving to Professor Ashok Das and Professor Chiranjeev Kumar. Ashok Das ji and Chiranjeev Kumar ji, there is this question frequently coming up, and this is raised also by Professor Binil when he talked about the learning, the advantages of face-to-face learning. Ashok Das ji, because you spoke about skill set development, the question comes up. How much can technology help us in social and communication skills development?
The issue, you see, I'll give you an example which people talked about in the last question that you asked. And that was, as the pandemic progressed, the first 3 months of pandemics and today, you will find the socialization, the collaboration, the crosstalk, the way teacher conducts the class has become widely different, because the teachers are learning, the students are learning, and the objective has always been that the learner gets what the teacher wants to impact. That is one. The second is the soft skills. You are talking about, this question is about soft skills. Now the soft skill, and somebody raised the issue of ethics also, ethics learning, which I thought was extremely important. It could only happen by case study, or what is a gamification or a conflict management platform, which are coming up. You will find that again, as the pandemic progressed, the consortiums in UK, USA started building these platforms where people can interact, pose problems, give solutions, and make it more real time. So I have these things will take time, but I think the soft skill which need a little more input or little more technology development, artificial intelligence would come, but it would take time, and we need to plan very well for it.
Thank you so much, sir. Chiranjeevi Kumar, sir.
Sir, in this, what I would like to say is improving the soft skill. That is very important, because once the soft skill is improved, then only you'll find that the learner will be having a very smooth interaction with the instructor. So technology can play a very important role here. Like many a times you'll observe that the student is not very comfortable interacting with you. But if you give a platform where they can interact with themselves, then definitely it is going to help them, and the technology is the one which will make the thing. And once the soft skills and once the communication skill is improved, then there is no limit. This is all from my side.
Thank you so much, sir. Our organizers are putting up another question for our audience as to their response to their key learning response from the points which the panelists have made. And I'm now coming to Professor Alamgir and Dr. Pawar. Sir, my question to both of you is the same question, and I would request Alamgir sir to take it first, and then Pawar sir to take it, which is this, sir. How do we ensure that the assessment framework through online evaluation is fair? Should we be moving to a much more open book system of assessment? Should we be moving to a more application-based assessment rather than a memory and knowledge-based assessment? Alamgir sir first, and then Pawar sir.
Thank you very much. This is the most crucial issue of online education mode, because as we completed in online system 1 or 2 semesters in our universities, but we have been struggling for an authentic assessment, and it is not possible to close book assessment online, and it is very difficult. And we found that the Viva Voce is the most reliable and more authentic system rather than going for open book or assignment, other things. But still, we have been struggling to find out the appropriate mode of or appropriate system for assessment. And sometimes we found that even the open book, if we go for the open book examination, this is better than providing any assignment or other things. So we found that for the authentic assessment, the Viva Voce and open book examination plays a vital role and important role and acceptable solutions. Thank you.
Pawar sir?
Yes. Well, I appreciate the response from Dr. Alamgir, but at the same time, we'll have to look at the current method of how we are trying to bring in technology in the assessment. The assessments are being conducted largely based on the multiple choice questions. The difficulty level to some extent is being increased in some of the areas, but that is what is being followed. Some of the examinations which are conducted, they are essentially proctor-based examinations. So learner's environment is continuously being monitored so that he is not indulging into unfair means. And third thing, that biggest issue that we have been facing today is in terms of how best we can use technology in terms of assessment of subjective material, particularly the long answer questions which are written. And there we still have little limitations in terms of using technology in the assessment. But we also have to see that there's a tremendous amount of shortfall in terms of assessing the students in the practical areas. But practical component we have not been able to effectively teach during the pandemic. Let us agree, all of us, on this particular point. And therefore, this practical component, which is in the form of either videos or some kind of simulations or some kinds of skills being demonstrated, that component is remaining weak, and therefore assessment of such kind of component, particularly related to practical aspect, is going to remain weak for some more time till we find solutions from technology point of view, because practical is something which is a hands-on experience related learner's experience, which we'll have to see that it is provided to you. And therefore there is still weakness, and therefore accordingly we'll have to look at this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pawar. Now I'm going to all the panelists now and giving 1 minute each to each panelist, either to respond to some of the questions which others have responded to, which they did not respond to, or to just raise 2 more points. In this age of information explosion on the platform of technology, how do we deal with security issues? How do we deal with finding out what is right and what is not right is one question. And the other question is, in the whole focus on technology, are we somewhere, not consciously but unconsciously, forgetting the human element which needs to also be taken care of? These are 2 additional points, so I leave it to each panelist to decide what they would like to choose. But 1 minute for everybody. And I'll start with Ashok ji, and then move on to Chandrika ma'am, and then to the others. But Ashok ji first.
I think I'll first take the issue of human element, because this has been an area which is close to my mind. And that is that it is the way it goes. We might be making the concept of teacher-student relationship, the development of an emotional quotient or the emotional strength in the students, much more weak. That is the fear. The second is the teacher's role has to be very well defined as a facilitator, and the facilitation must be very well defined. So the role of the universities now, because technology coming is a trajectory of history now, and technologies will come and technologies are enabling industries, so it will happen. But the real fear there is, technologies are there for human beings to use for the most effective and efficient manner to reach out to maximum, and that should not be forgotten. In our haste to earn money and commodification, sometimes we forget. But my limited point and most earnest specification would be, please keep the human element alive. Otherwise, we will lose everything that we have built on.
Thank you so much, Ashok sir. Thank you so much, Ashok sir. Professor Chandrika?
I would totally and wholly concur with the human element, which is extremely important to fashion our next generation. And the fact that many of them come from very difficult backgrounds, and that living in a city, living in a university life is something that is extremely important and we must not forget. So as it is, we have laboratory issues, research-based community outreach, certain skills like what our honorable member said from the medical scene, but also in issues like agriculture, where they need to really work on hand. So we need to get that correct mix, but we need to really refocus from an institutional and the academic, the faculty point of view, because the students are the ones who will be most adaptable and adjustable, provided we get the right mix.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Professor Chiranjeevi?
So the earlier question was somewhat in the similar direction. So what I think that the technology can help in effective dissemination of knowledge, but the quality of content and the engagement of the process, that must come from the teacher and their experiences. So definitely it's presence of the teachers is required, and we should train the teacher in such a way that they can make a better use of the technology for proper dissemination of information to the student. I would also like to answer the open book question.
Chiranjeevi sir, we are running out of time, so I'll have to go to the other three panelists. Vinil sir.
Sorry. Yeah. I have a few. I have read one questions. What are the problems? What will be the problem in the future in the chat box? So probably we have to. We need to work on digital pedagogy that suits for our curriculum. And if you come to the curriculum, then we all know that our curriculum is basically for knowledge. Basically, revise that curriculum and go to the regime in which we say curriculum for a skill. And we will have a much more challenge if we make a curriculum for a skill. So we have to customize. Better. These are the main challenges for the future.
Right.
And the last thing is the how among the learners. So
okay,
these are the future challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Vinil. Can I move to Professor Alamgir for his closing comments in a minute, please?
Okay, thank you very much. My concrete comments is online shopping and online education are not the same thing. Why we put the education? We make the skill and we prepare the people to use that skill for the human, for the good well-being of the people. So we cannot forget about the human element that is very vital. Otherwise, we don't need any education. Another thing, we expect that no one to be left behind in our development systems. It is not possible by online. So we have to find out the mechanisms how we can ensure that no one will be left behind, and the skill should be developed for the well-being of the human. So that person should be developed in mentally, in physically, in all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Pawar sir.
We have to understand one thing, that technology is for enhancing the efficiency, transparency, and accountability. So there is definitely no scope for technology to replace the human element. No matter, we may have artificial intelligence and other things which will enhance the efficiency of the process. But at the same time, the bonding between the teacher and the student, that has to exist, and therefore there has to be some mechanism in place by which this bond does not weaken. And therefore we have to be very clear that teacher is a motivator. He can motivate the student only when he comes in contact. So that contact with the teacher of the learner is very well established, and we have to honor it.
Thank you so much, sir. Friends, we have had a very interesting dialogue for the last 80 minutes. And I think one point which we at Jagran Lake City University, all our faculty have been emphasizing is a motto which we have adopted for ourselves: connect to IT, reconnect to HT. Connect to information technology, reconnect to human technology. Because unless you reconnect to human technology, you will not be able to leverage information technology as effectively. And secondly, I think one point which all my 6 colleagues on the panel have made is this: the centrality of the role of the facilitator. If the facilitator, if the faculty is not trained, is not aligned, does not have the right approach which the new technology requires or new ways of learning require, I think simply processes and procedures would not help. We would need to look at attitudes and aspirations of faculty and also learners in the process. I think this has been a great dialogue, and I'm sure we have raised more questions than actually provided specific answers, and that's what this whole dialogue is about. And I'd like to, from the bottom of my heart, thank all our 6 panelists for the very, very succinct interventions that all of them came up with. And I would now hand over to the Turnitin Master of Ceremonies to take it to the final stage of the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, esteemed panelists, for such an engaging discussion. Before we move on to the vote of thanks, I would like to mention that the feedback form has been shared in the chat. Please fill it in with the correct details of your name and institution so that the certificates can be sent directly to your inbox. I will now request Ms. Chaitali Moitra, Regional Director of Turnitin South Asia, to deliver the vote of thanks to our panelist and moderator. Over to you, Chaitali.
Thank you, Amisha. It has been a very interesting morning for all of us, insightful, deep, and thought-provoking. As an organization that puts student outcomes at the forefront of everything that we do with technology as its prime enabler, we have been enriched by your ideas and experiences today. It gives me great pleasure to take this opportunity to thank Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe, Chairman of All India Council of Technical Education, for being our guest of honor and delivering the keynote speech despite his hectic schedule. I would like to thank our eminent panelist, Professor Chandrika Vijayaratne, Vice Chancellor, University of Colombo, Professor Dr. Mohammad Alamgir, Member, University Grants Commission, Bangladesh, Professor Binil Arail, Dean, Institute of Science and Technology, Tribhuvan University, Nepal, Professor Dr. N.J. Power, Vice Chancellor, Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapith, Professor Ashoka Das, Vice Chairperson, Odisha State Higher Education Council, and Professor Chiranjeev Kumar, Dean Academics at Indian Institute of Technology and Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad. Your ideas and observations have made this a vibrant space for discussions today, and we look forward to having your presence and support in our future events too. A very special thanks goes out to Dr. Sandeep Shastri for moderating the panel and making this event both captivating and energizing. Sir, this wouldn't have been possible without you. I would also like to thank our CEO, Mr. Chris Karen, who has always provided his unfettered support to the Turnitin South Asia team and took time today to come and address all of us from Oakland. My heartfelt thanks to all the participants for sparing time to be here today and engaging us with your questions and views. It has been a pleasure hosting you all. At last but not the least, I would like to thank the Turnitin South Asia team for making this possible. On behalf of Turnitin, I really wish you all a good day ahead and would like to actually end, with what just now Dr. Shastri said, that is connect to IT and reconnect to HD. I really like that. And I think that is going to be some motto that I will carry it with me too in my corporate life. Thank you, sir.
Thanks to Ms. Chaitali Moitra for her empowering words. Hearing such renowned speakers today, I just want to summarize by quoting an enthralling line. Education breeds confidence. Confidence breeds hope. Hope breeds peace. Thanks everyone once again. This is Amisha Gupta signing off as your master of ceremony today. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. We are leaving now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.